Welcome back to the Coach Steve Show. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button on the YouTube channel, follow right on Apple and iTunes, and check it out on Spotify, follow on X, Instagram, TikTok, everything else. Working on TikTok right now as we speak to go live. That's what I'm currently messing with. So if you see me on an iPad right now, trying to make it work. It's asking me for my birthday. It's kind of weird. But welcome back, everybody. Great news in the college football world. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about college football on this episode. One thing that, and we're also going to talk about something else. The great news right now, and I apologize. It's asking me for like my face and stuff, everything else. I don't even know. Has anybody else tried TikTok live? Maybe I should have messed with this before, but it said go live. I didn't know that it was going to do all this. But anyway, so in the college football world, Mike Leach is going to make the Hall of Fame, and it's going to be fantastic. Excuse me, it's asking me to put my face. You guys watching this live right now? Anyway, I'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that. Sorry about that. Messing with TikTok. Probably should have done it, but this is raw and uncut. So you get what you get. So anyway, college football, to get into the Hall of Fame as a coach, you have to coach in over 100 games. You have to have a win percentage of .600. And Mike Leach, currently, the late Coach Mike Leach, sits at .596. So he was right there to make the Hall of Fame. And so most of us Mike Leach fans said, hey, just put him in the Hall of Fame. Just put him in the Hall of Fame. He meant a lot to college football. He was with Coach Hal Mumme and helped change college football, essentially. He was one of the driving forces and creation of the air raid, his personality, what he did for college football, and then also taking over programs that really struggled. He did not walk into programs that historically, season after season, or every so often had a winning ways about them. They didn't take over in Alabama, didn't take over Georgia, didn't take over Oregon. He coached a lot of smaller schools in his career, takes over a Texas Tech program that was not there, was not winning, won games there. Then he went to Washington State, which is a hard place to recruit, hard place to win, and made them very respectable in the conference, respectable in the nation, and won games. And then he was at Mississippi State, starting to do the same thing. Mississippi State was down. He wanted to go to the SEC and get this air raid going there, wanted to win there. Just meant a lot to college football. And so to have a .596 win percentage meant he wasn't going to be eligible for the Hall of Fame. When he passed away, this was a conversation. I even did an episode that said, just put him in there. He passed away too young, too soon. So now they decided to change it to where it's 0.595. So now with his .596, he is now eligible for the Hall of Fame. I believe it's 2027. He'll be on the ballot, and I believe first ballot, first time trying Hall of Famer. That is what's going to happen. Mike Leach deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, I put this out there, and somebody commented on it saying, yeah, let's roll back, the standards, and then let's go yell at kids while we're rolling back the standards. And you're right in the sense of, if we roll back our standards in our programs and then we yell at kids for not meeting standards, maybe so. But let me tell you why that has nothing to do with this situation. You're not doing this. It's hard. It's hard to win in college football. This does not mean that coaches automatically get in the Hall of Fame. This is not saying that he is in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying that he is going to be. What this means is that coaches are eligible. So the statement that got said to me makes no sense, does not relate to the situation. So that those type of comments make no sense. But that was one of the only negative comments I think I saw about this. They should call this the Mike Leach thing. Just honor him and say if you get to the Mike Leach level, you are eligible for the Hall of Fame. So I want to make that very clear that Mike Leach is not in the Hall of Fame yet. I guess technically this doesn't mean he may not. He doesn't mean he would get in, but I'm 99% sure that he is going to get in. Like I said, you help change offenses now that high schools run them. You see them in the NFL. You see them all over college football. What he and Hal Mummy put together just revolutionized offenses for everybody. And he was one of the last true guys, probably the last true guy to run like pure air raid. Like we're going to throw the ball over the yard. Some air raids, have adapted certain routes. They've adapted adding the run game to it. But Mike Leach, I think, in everybody's eyes, I know in my eyes, he's a Hall of Famer. You have to look at everything. And it'd be hard for me to imagine any college football coach out there right now that wouldn't agree with me that says Mike Leach deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And when his name comes up, I think it's going to be a unanimous vote. And if somebody doesn't vote for him, I want to find them and ask why. Because, like I said at the beginning, the way he fought for college football, his amazing press conferences, his amazing interviews, what he did on offense, how he was able to coach at programs that people didn't want to coach at, turn them into winning games. And I know already they're going to say, well, he won no national championships. I don't think you have to win a national championship to be in the Hall of Fame. I think I think you have to look at the situations. If somebody took over a program that's known for winning and they couldn't get it done, that's different. You go to a place, turn it around, and like he stayed there, right? Even when he was assistant, he stayed there. I think one of his short stints was probably Kentucky and for sure Oklahoma, because he was there for 1 year. But then he was given an opportunity to be a head coach, and he wanted the challenge of just like at Iowa Wesleyan, with Hal Mummy and other places where they take over programs, they turn them into winning football games, they make it a place that people want to go to. Texas Tech is Texas, the way like the facilities and everything else. The reason why Texas Tech looks the way it does is because of what Mike Leach started. The reason why Washington State is probably on TV more now than they have been in a while, when coaches there now that find success, is because Mike Leach made it a place to be talked about, and he stayed there for a while. He had opportunities to go, and he just wanted to wait for the right moment, and he found a similar situation at Mississippi State. The competitiveness in him wanted to go to the SEC. I think he kind of wanted to show that this offense can be anywhere, and he wanted to get Mississippi State back to that level, and that's what he was starting to do before he, unfortunately passed away. So I think this is a very good thing, changing this, and will allow coaches like Mike Leach to get there and get into the Hall of Fame. But people that don't agree with it can kick rocks because you don't truly understand what's going on. I don't think you understand what this is going to mean for Mike Leach looking down on us right now. I don't think you're going to understand for the coaches that worked with him, what that will mean for them and what it would mean for Mike Leach's family to show that all the hard work he put in. If you know anything about Mike Leach, read the books, the sacrifices that his family made and what he had to do to get to where he was, it would just mean everything to put him in the Hall of Fame. I believe 110% that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'd like to think 99% of people would agree that he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So this is very good news in the college football world. Great decision by the people in charge. And they don't have a lot of them. They really don't have a lot of good decisions, but this is one of them. And so Mike Leach will be in the Hall of Fame. He deserves it 100% to be in the Hall of Fame. We're going to continue on here with our college football talk. We all know the college football playoffs became a thing a few years ago, taking the top, well, I don't know if you're going to say top four, but they'll take 4 teams into the playoff. Now it was going to expand to 8. Now it's going to expand expanded to 8, now it expands to 12. And now there's talks about expanding it to 16. And I know Lane Kiffin is about it, other coaches are about it, some are not. Some media experts, quote unquote, are for it, some are not for it. So let's talk about if this is a good thing or bad thing and explore this a little bit. The NCAA and the committees, all they see is dollar signs. So when you expand to 8, when you expand to 12, you're extending the football season, which means more TV revenue, more from the commercials, different venues that you could play at, playing at the school's home stadium can bring money to that stadium, but then they also, I would assume, get a cut. And so it just brings a lot of that. And that's what they're seeing. So when they talk about expanding to 8, expanding to 12, and they get to 12, then they talk about expanding to 16. That's what they're looking at. And they want to compete with the NFL, and they want to compete with the NBAs and everything else to bring in more viewership, because I believe college football is better to watch than the NFL. So they want to bring more eyes to it. So when they talk about trying to go to 16, which there's no I guess proof or this avenue that it is going to go to 16, but the fact that every time it gets talked about expansion, it does happen at some point, and it's happening very quickly. I don't They want to please the fans, so when they talked about moving it to 12, it wasn't a hey, 2, 3, 4 years from now we're going to do it. It was let's do it. So they jumped into it and they expanded it to 12. So as a fan, you love it because it's exciting to go to 12, because you might see some matchups you haven't seen all year. You're going to find out the true battle tested teams. So if a team is ranked number 4, 5, or 6, and they get upset by a lower seed, does that show that the lower seed is better? You're going to see matchups from different conferences, even though we're down to if you want to call it Power 4, it's technically Power 2, the Big 10, the SEC. I know there's good teams in the ACC and Big 12, but that's where we're at. So it's excitement. It just allows us as fans to watch more college football. They're looking at even college betting, the money that gets generated through betting. So from that aspect, it's awesome. But I read this and I thought about this. When's enough, right? The old school way, for people that may be too young, it was the BCS, where they took the top 2. If you got the 1 seed and the 2 seed, you were going to the national championship. Everybody else was going to play in a bowl game. And this was back when bowl games mattered. Bowl games were super exciting. I love bowl games. I loved bowl games growing up. That all roads led to you watching that national championship game. But questions became, who deserves to be the number 1, number 2 seed. And so that's where all those questions came in. They felt some of the smaller schools, if they go undefeated, why are they not the number 1 seed? You're trusting a computer to make these decisions, not human beings. Well, then you go to the 4 team. Well, now you have human beings and computers making these decisions. Then it became teams that got number 5 were pissed because they weren't number 4. Same way when the 3 seed was pissed that they weren't the number 2 seed, or the number 2 seed thought they should be the number 1 seed. So then they try to please and say, okay, let's go to 8. Well, then it would become that. So now let's go to 12. Now you're number 12. And so now is the 13 seed going to be pissed off they're not the 12 seed? If you're a 5 seed, are you mad you're not the 4 seed? If you don't get a bye, it's just, there's always going to be complaints about everything. So at some point, do you just say, okay, and I said this a long time ago, why don't you just say the top 25 get in and the number 1 seed gets a bye? You expand the college football playoffs, make it the top 25. Because growing up, the top 25 meant something. I still think it means something to some schools, but I think generally to all the fans, the top 25 isn't as much. If you weren't the top 4, then you were the top 8 and the top 12. Why does the playoff ranking different than the top 25? I think the top 25, the top 12 teams now, that would be your college football playoff, not have 2 different rankings, because on the top 25, if a team is ranked number 10, but in the college football ranking, they're number 13, that doesn't make sense. So a lot of things are not gelling up well because they're moving very quickly, and they're moving very quickly. And, because kind of like in the world, if people complain enough, they get the things that they want. You see that in politics, you see that in sports. That's kind of happening here in college football. So realistically, I do love the 12-team playoff. I think it's exciting, but are they really thinking about the number of games that teams are probably going to play if they make it? So we'll get to what changed in the seeding, but let's just talk about expansion and teams. So in the NFL, they play 18 games. That's a lot of games. College football always used to be, when it was the top 1, 2, if you play, it used to be some conferences didn't have their conference championship. So you're looking at playing 12 games. You get to your bowl game, you play 13. That was kind of about the sweet spot when you're thinking about football being a collision sport and the kids' bodies, getting hit. That's where you started to say, okay, that's probably the sweet spot. Then they get to the NFL and they'll play 16 games, and it got to 17, 18. Same thing in the NBA. In college basketball, you play 30 some games, 40 games, which is a lot. But then you get to the NBA and you play 82. So that's the big distinction there between college and pros. Well, then when you go to 4, you're looking at, okay, you make the, assuming at the time we would all assume, okay, you win the SEC, you win the Big Ten, you win the ACC, you were going. Not always the case. Some conference champions didn't make it, so that was why they wanted to expand it. But back then, when it was 4, if you won your championship game and you made the college football playoff, you won the first round and you won the second round. Okay, that's 15 games. Like when LSU went 15-0. With Joe Burrow and company. So that's 15 games right there. So now you're creeping up there to the NFL where they're playing probably at the time 17. Now they're playing 18. So now that's a lot of football. It's a lot of football, especially if you're like in Alabama, if you make the college football playoff every single year at the time. So in your one season, you play 15 games, you come right back in, you play another 15 games, and you play another 15 games. That's a lot of football. Now, I know that that's only a couple teams. So the rest of the teams are playing 12, 13 if they make a bowl game. So I know it's hard to base it off of that. But then you want to go to 12. Okay. So that's a lot of football games. Okay. So if you make it to, and it was 15, but now you're adding 8 more teams, you're adding a couple more games, you're looking at 17, 18 games. It's an NFL season if you win. And that's a lot of football, especially if, let's say, you're on a school that makes it 2 years in a row, and let's say one year you play the 18, but the next year you play 16. They go to the NFL, now they got to play 18 games. Like, you got to think. Now, I know not everybody goes to the NFL, and that's why this has to be a conversation of what's the right way. Not everybody goes to the NFL. And I know you want to provide more opportunities for guys that are not going to go to the NFL. They get more games if they're lucky enough to be on a team that goes. But I'm also thinking in that term of they're going to play, like some of those guys are going to play a lot of football. And that's a lot of wear and tear on the body. And so if you keep it that way, and that's what we're doing is play 12 games, you get your conference champion. That's 13 right there. You get to the playoff, there's your 14. You win the next round, there's your 15. You go to the next round, there's your 16. If you lose, you're done at 16. And I know adding to the 16 gives more teams opportunities. It allows some of these arguments to kind of go away. But I think now whoever gets the 17 seed is still going to have arguments. Even the 18 seed, they're going to have arguments out of all the hundreds of schools that we've got. And I just don't think, which the NCAA doesn't, they don't really think about the players. That's why it took forever to get them to get some money. That's why they've allowed the transfer portal to become the Wild West. That's why they've allowed the money to be included with the transfer portal. And that's why the NCAA doesn't really care. I don't think they have the most fantastic leadership when it comes to all that. So I don't believe that they've really thought about the wear and tear and the banging of the players' bodies. So now, are we going to see teams rest certain players if they play a team that they think they know they can beat? Are they going to rest some guys so they're not playing? If you're you see FCS teams beat FBS teams. But if you're a big Division One program and you've got, an FCS team coming in that 100% you're probably going to beat, and your second string is going to be able to pull it off, are we going to see teams getting rested, which is not fair to the fans because they pay the ticket to watch the college football player that is getting paid, and you want to watch them play. So all that stuff should be coming into effect. I would like to think the people in charge have discussed this. I doubt that they have, just from their track record. So I don't 100% know if this is the right way to do it. It kind of sucks. The two ways I could see this being a better situation is, number one is make the top, like I said, make the top 25 the playoff, where it makes the top 25 mean a lot more. It opens up the doors to a lot of teams to make the playoffs. And then you change the regular season down to 10 games. So that way, teams that make it, don't play as much. But I know that sucks because that does take away from ticket sales, because you're losing one team might lose 2 home games, one team, or at least a home game, and that might lose tickets. But again, this comes down to sometimes rich people, where how much money is too much money, and is this really going to affect your bottom dollar? You're still getting your TV deals. You should be able to make up that money from having the top 25 go to the playoffs. The number 1 seed gets a bye, saying, "Hey, you earned the number 1 seed, so you deserve the bye. You've worked really hard to get that," which I think is fair. You see that in other ones, or do you go top 24 and number 26 and 25 have a play-in game to see who gets, or do you go to 26 or have some play-in game? However you want to work it, that could be fun too. That's what they do in the NCAA March Madness. That's why you shouldn't fill out your brackets like the day before, almost the day of the first game, because you have those playing games, and we've seen upsets before. So I've learned that a long time ago, where you don't want to pick those. You wait till they get into the tournament, but you have those playing games. So you could go, way more teams have a playing game. That playing game could be exciting, kind of like your kind of similar to the NFL wild card weekend, those guys, those games. So I think that would be exciting to do. But you would then have to scale back the regular season, and you would have to scale back to probably 10. And then your 11th game would be your conference championship game. So at least you're scaling it back just a hair. And it just opens up avenues for more teams to get in if that's what we're looking for. Kind of like here in Illinois, we have 8 football classes in our high school classifications for football. We have 8 all the way down to 1. Each class gets 32, and they go by enrollment. So you get 256 teams, but there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of high schools in the state of Illinois that participate in football. And you have to get to 5 and 4 to even think about making it. And even then, you may not make it. It goes by your strength of schedule. So when you're 5 and 4, you hold your breath that you're going to make it, unless you've had a tough schedule. You get to 6 and 3, you're automatically in, and so on and so forth. So I think that this would just allow, but I already know that would this water down the playoff, because you have 25 teams in, maybe. So a lot of people think that 16 is the sweet spot, but then don't make the top 25 rankings anymore, just making the top 16. That's kind of where I'm going with this is, why do you have a top rankings? Just make it top 16, or, and something like that. Your other avenue that you could go, and I've talked about this before, and it was said today that they don't know if they don't think it could happen. Sankey said that with the SEC, is does the Big Ten and SEC figure out, hey, if there's a way, let's break away from the NCAA and we'll run our own stuff for football. And maybe they do it for all other sports. But for football, do they kind of break away saying we can get TV deals and still make money. We have our ticket sales, we have our merchandise sales, we have boosters still. And can we break away, make money, and do our own thing and make the playoffs the way we want? That would, I don't know if destroy college football would be the right thing, but it would destroy NCAA college football as we know it, because then teams are going to start putting bids in to join them for sure. If they're not doing it now, they would do it for sure. And then you can make your own playoffs. So if you wanted to do that, then you could go 16, you could go 20, you could make it an NFL style where, hey, not we're going to make it just like NFL, where we have a wild card playing game to get in, and then you have home field advantage until you get to the championship game. That's another avenue I could see going. If the Big Ten and SEC ever figure that out and join together to figure out how to make money, and then they have their brands, so there's ways to make money. But they do have the safety net of the NCAA as well for some of those money things. They're going to get the revenue in now that would go to their name, image, and likeness. So I don't know if this is good or bad. It's both. Really, it's good, but it's also bad. There's a lot of things. I know Mike Leach, one of his famous rants, said, just go to 64. Go to 64. I think that might be too much, because then you'd really have to go to like 9 games and continue to play on, or for sure go to 10 games. But there has to be a way, because the FCS has figured it out. Division twos, Division threes, they've really figured it out. So I think that you have to look at their model and almost copy it, because right now they're not. They're kind of just going by the seat of their pants. So if they could just kind of copy those other ways that they do it, would make it a lot more fun for the fans. I think it would make things a lot more competitive, because when it was the top 4 and you got to a certain point, you're like, well, we're not going to make it. Top 8, same thing. It's going to be a little bit better in the tops. If they in the 12, it would be better in the 16. But I'm just thinking about the regular season. That's why FCS, they play 9 or 10 games, because then they could have their championship game and then make the playoffs. They all of them host until they get, to a certain point. So, and I would love that part, to see them all host. Like we always joked when Coastal Carolina was on their run, how awesome would it be to see like an SEC team travel to Coastal Carolina? That'd be awesome for Coastal Carolina. When Libertyville went undefeated, and if the playoff was expanded and they were there, would a Big Ten team, an SEC team, or a Power 3-4 team travel to Liberty? That would be awesome. So those are the different avenues that they would have to go. So it's going to be interesting to see how it continues to unfold and continues to change every single year, because it feels like they're just trying to throw things against the wall and hope it sticks, and hope that this is what pleases a majority of everybody. To end the show, there was something interesting. This is not college football related. This is sports media related, and this is NFL related, and this is Aaron Rodgers related. Joy Taylor, who is on Fox Sports, who has been on different shows, has been around for a while. She does not say the brightest things. She was just or might still be in some scandal, and I don't know enough information about it, because quite frankly, I don't care. I don't think she has the best sports takes. So it makes you wonder if these allegations are true about why she has a job. So I'll just put her in the categorization as, why does this sports person have a job in sports? And I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to play it because YouTube will probably take it down. She goes on a rant about how disappointed she is in Aaron Rodgers and what's wrong with Aaron Rodgers. He's not at OTAs for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and goes on this long rant. And then I saw a funny post saying, man, I hope I have my research right for my sports podcast today, my sports show. Then it shows that clip. Does she not know that Aaron Rodgers is not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, I believe he's still under contract with the Jets, or he's nothing. It's one of the two, because I don't even know what's going on with his whole situation. But he is definitely not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's had conversations with them, but he's not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you have somebody that's helped out or been a co-host of big-time sports talk show stuff on Fox, on FS1, And you go out and say this, and nobody, to my knowledge, corrects her live. What are we doing? We watch these shows to be entertained about sports takes and see conversations and debates that don't end up being personal. But she goes on this rant where Aaron Rodgers is not even on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, why does she have a job in sports? I have my theories, and I'm going to keep them to myself. Use your imagination as to why she might have a job in sports. But why? Like, seriously, I can make those mistakes because I'm not on FS1. I'm not on ESPN. If I say something wrong here, whatever. But I try my best to say the right things, or I like to play. I don't like the what if game, but I'll play it here. But he's not on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and she's on a national TV channel and has this show and goes on this rant about this. How dumb do we have to be? And how does she have a job with everything else going on? And then this, they should bring her and say, with everything going on and you had a horrible take, you're gone because you obviously don't know sports and you don't know what's going on. Like, what are we doing with this? What are we doing to ourselves? Like, this is why I can't watch I can't watch these shows anymore on ESPN and FS1. I remember growing up, but I couldn't wait to turn on ESPN and watch the top 10 plays or the worst 10 plays. I wanted to watch the debate shows. I wanted to watch this. FS1 had them too, but now they become political. Now you've got people that don't know what they're talking about in sports. They allow other things to creep in as they're talking, and they make the debates personal. They do X, Y, and Z, and it's just super, super hard to watch the older I get. And this is another reason why. Like, you could sit there and say, why is he not at any team's OTAs? Why is he not with the New York Jets? Why is he not retired yet? This is ridiculous. Cool. But also, who really cares what Aaron Rodgers is doing? Unless it's your team. If he was on the Bears, I'd be saying something. If he was on the Jets, I'd be saying something. If he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, you could have a rant about OTAs if you wanted to, but he's not. So, Joy Taylor, I think it's time for you to find a different career. And again, use your imagination as to why she probably has a job in sports, and I'll leave it at that. But what are we doing? What are we doing here? FS1 and ESPN. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, how do we allow these people on TV to just talk? Her, Ryan Clark, Mina Kimes, and company, now Stephen A. Smith. Like, how do we allow these people to just spew all this and make lots and lots and lots of money to do that? I could do that. And you could pay me half of what she's making, if not less, and I would be happier than flies on shit. So I don't know what we're doing here. Don't get it. So that's the end there. Make sure you guys, if this is the first time watching, like and subscribe to YouTube channel. Follow it right on Apple and iTunes and Spotify. Follow on X and Instagram and TikTok as well. I apologize for the very beginning of this. I had my iPad out trying to figure out TikTok Live. It was trying to recognize my face. I didn't know you had to do all that. It was my first time trying it. So I apologize. You had to deal with that for the first minute or so into this. I thought it just had the live button. I was going to click live and go. But thank you guys for watching and or listening. Be on the lookout for more episodes and different interviews with different guests. This is Coach Steve. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys next time.